Hey everyone, finally the Cook engagement episode is here and soon they are going to get married. So I hope you will love the episode. Thang never thought that he will say yes to the engagement, that his family will go crazy on preparing his engagement when Thang not them that he is agree with them engagement. They didn't ask him any further question like they already did. Mrs. Jan and Mrs. Kim already called designers for clothes. They also had best stylists for Thang and Jungkook. On the other hand, Mr. Jan and Mr. Kim immediately started to make guest list for engagement because this is the function of their family where both of their sons starting new life together. So they want to invite all businessmen, both national and international investors, to their function, and they also know this is not only function of engagement, it is the first time they are going to introduce Theung as their son publicly. They want everyone should recognize Theung. Mr. Kim and Mr. Jian also booked one of the biggest five-star hotel for their function. Theung and Jungkook didn't have anything to do. The only thing they have to do is choosing engagement rings, as both of them decided to give surprise to each other. So each of them went with their friends to choose their rings. Jungkook's sister Honey and their grandparents also reached Jeon's mansion. Everything is ready for the engagement. Nathan and Jungkook are in hotel room, which are allotted them by their parents separately. Taeyang is now surrounded by his friends, Jimin, Hobi, and Jin. They are waiting for the stylist hired by Mrs. Kim uncle. Jungkook is also in his room with his friends Namjoon, Yoongi, and Kai. Jungkook is taking shower where his other friends are waiting for him. Taeyang looked at his friends and said, "I'm freaking nervous. I don't know they prepare for engagement this huge." Yeah, Taeyang never thought about when will engagement happen, but his family arranged everything in 2 days, and third day now he is sitting in the hotel room for his engagement, and there is going to be so many people in his engagement. Jimin clenches at Taeyang because Taeyang is looking lost puppy actually, which is very cute. Taeyang glared at him. Jimin cleared his throat and said, "It happens to everyone, Taeyang, when we are going to start something new. Of course, we feel nervous. By the way, you are lucky because Mrs. Jian auntie, Mr. Jian uncle, and Jungkook always loves you so much, so no need to worry," Jimin said and make his friend better. Taeyang nodded to him and said, "I know, but I can't prevent my nervousness." In the middle of Taeyang and Jimin's serious conversation, Jin and Hobie look at them. "By the way, Taeyang, do you both did that?" And Jin asked seriously. Taeyang didn't understand because there is no specification in Jin's sentence, so he asked, "What do you mean, Hyung?" "I mean Jungkook and you." Jin sentence cut in the middle by Taeyang. "You pabo, I'm nervous here and you are talking about that." Taeyang yelled at him, but again he said, "We didn't." "Oh really? I thought you both already." Hobie smashed Jimin's head and which made Taeyang to laugh. He also took encouragement from Jimin and smacks Jin's shoulder. "You pabo, you are why are you smashing me?" Jin said while rubbing his head. Then Hobie said, "You get it," Hyung with grin. When they are in their moment, they heard knock on the room. Jimin opened the door and 3 men entered the room. For the look of them, Jimin looked at his friend who is now standing in the mirror, in front of mirror. Jungkook is going to be breathless today. Taeyang smirked and said when he is not. For that, Jin replied, confident, huh? Wouldn't he? Hobie said and everyone laughed at it. Jungkook's room. Jungkook is also waiting for the stylist wearing his bathrobe. After some time, the stylist and makeup man arrived. They did their work. Now Jungkook is ready for looking like angel from the heaven. Namjoon looked at him and said, "You are looking like an angel, Jungkook." Jungkook smiled at him. Thank you, and I hope Taeyang only look at me. Of course, he can't take his eyes off from you. You wait. Just wait, Youngie said. But I know all eyes are going to be on Taeyang today, Kai said, and Jungkook glared at him. Then Kai again said to avoid glare, I mean, this is the first time he's coming in front of your business partners and investors. You are right, and I hope everything should go well today, Jungkook said. Jungkook thought my baby might be nervous. I have to talk to him. So he took out his phone from pocket and going to call Taeyang. That's when Mrs. Jian and Mrs. Kim entered the room, and when they looked at Jungkook, they screamed excitedly, "Oh my God!" Jungkook looked at both of them and asked, "What? Am I not looking good? Are you dumb? You are looking like an angel," Mrs. Kim said. Mrs. Yan came in front of Jungkook and kissed his forehead and said, "Finally, you got your love, my baby. I am so happy for you." Mrs. Yan's eyes are filled with tears. Jungkook hugged his mother and he made circle on his mother's back. Mom, I am so happy today. Finally, the young is going to be mine official. So no more crying, only smiling. I don't want bad photos of my engagement, he said softly to his mother. His mother broke hug and said, "No more crying, let's go to the hall now. I am so excited for your engagement." Mrs. Yan said, "Okay, Mom, you have my ring, right?" Jungkook asked his mother. "Of course, you ask same question 10 times now, Bunny," Mrs. Jian said and looked at Mrs. Kim. Then Mrs. Kim said, "Now let's go to Taeyang's room. You both should enter together at stage." When Jungkook heard that, his heart started to beat further. He is so excited to see Taeyang. At the same time, he is excited within hour he can call Taeyang his fiancé. Jungkook and his friend followed Mrs. Kim and Mrs. Jian to Taeyang's room. They knocked on the room. The door opened by Jin. When they entered, they didn't see Jimin and Taeyang. Mrs. Kim confused and asked, "Where is Taeyang?" That's when they heard vomiting sound. "Who is who?" Mrs. Kim stopped at his word in middle and ran in the bathroom because he got the idea of who is vomiting behind Mrs. Kim. Jungkook also followed. Other people stayed there. When Mrs. Kim entered, he saw Taeyang is vomiting and Jimin is rubbing his back. Jimin looked at Mrs. Kim and he went outside, giving place to Mrs. Kim. Mrs. Kim looked at his baby who is vomiting. He started to rub his baby's back. Jungkook stood at the door at the bathroom because he wanted to give some space to Taeyang. After a minute, Taeyang got up from his place and washed his mouth. Taeyang is feeling so much weakness. He took support of counter of sink to stand while closing his eyes. Still, Taeyang don't know Jungkook and Mrs. Kim are standing with him. Then Taeyang weakly spoke, "Jimin, everything is spinning around me." Jungkook immediately held him to prevent him from falling. Mrs. Kim is also there, but Taeyang is heavy for him. Mrs. Kim muttered thank you to Jungkook and said, "Baby, calm down, we are here, okay?" But Taeyang didn't understand what's going on. Mrs. Kim looked at Jungkook and said, "I think he is panicked." Mrs. Kim nodded at her and said maybe. He sat down beside them and Jungkook stood near them looking at his baby. Now Jungkook looked at his baby's clear. Oh, he's looking so beautiful like Greek god in black. Shiny cut and makeup enhance his beauty more. His lips are looking more poppy and pink, maybe due to the lip gloss. Overall conclusion is Jungkook is breathless. Is something happened? Mrs. Kim asked Jimin. Jungkook shouts thoughts for his baby's beauty and disrepute by Mrs. Kim. Uncle Jimin nods to him and said he is nervous about all the things which happened too soon and so many people would be there. Mrs. Kim shook his head and said, I know this is going to be happen, so I already asked doctor to prescribe some medicine for him. Jimin, can you go to and bring medicine from your uncle? He has the medicine. Jimin nodded to him and went to bring the medicine. After some time, Thang got his conscious. Then he said, oh, you are looking so handsome, so Jin said, which made all the people laugh. Thang showed his body. That's when Jungkook said, don't make pout, you look more beautiful. Thang looked at his mom. Mrs. Kim raised his eyebrows at his son. He felt his son wanted to talk with him. Mrs. Kim looked at Mrs. Jian. Mrs. Jian understood that she took all the boys out of the room. Jungkook didn't want it to go out, but Mrs. Jian dragged him out. He will go back to his baby after Mrs. Kim and him talked to each other. After all the people went out of the room, Taehyung said in his low voice while hugging his mother, Mom, I'm so nervous. I don't know what is happening. I'm happy I'm going to engage with him, but at the same time I'm scared if I am good companion for him or not. Mrs. Kim pat Taehyung's back and broke the hug and said, listen to me, Taehyung. Taehyung nodded to him and said, you know when me and your Appa are going to engage, that time we didn't have anything with us. Both half the family leave us because they didn't wanted to accept our relationship at that time. Only Mrs. Jian and Mr. Jian stand with us and support us in everything. They become our family. That's when Mr. Kim and I decided that we will support our kids in their decision with whatever it is, especially in relationship. We don't wanted to give that pain to our kids, which we felt by our family. And Taehyung, if you are thinking about Jungkook and his family, I want to assure you that they are more kind and compassionate than us. Mrs. Jian and Mr. Jian will keep you like a prince, and Jungkook is head over heel for you, so don't think any wrong things. The only thing you have to remember is trust Jungkook. You have to trust him. If you feel something is not correct between you two, then communicate with him or get angry on him, but don't keep things inside your mind that will destroy your relationship. And last warning, Jungkook loves you so much, so don't hurt him, Mrs. Kim said, and take a deep breath. Mom, look like everything become normal, he said while taking glass of water in one hand and stand in front of Thang and middle in the other hand. Take that medicine which will help you to reduce your panicking. I forgot to give that to you in the morning, Mrs. Kim said. Thang grabbed and the medicine and glass of water and looked at his mom and said, I love you, Mom, I love you too, Mrs. Kim said and hugged his baby uncle. And Thang, we both can talk later. And Thang, you should talk to you, little young. He is sulking outside, Jimin said, remembering the face of Jungkook while he was entering room. Jimin is right, you should talk to Jungkook, Mrs. Kim said and got up from the bed. Both Jimin and Mrs. Kim went outside and Jungkook entered inside. When Jungkook entered, both the boys stare at each other. There is no awkwardness, no uncomfortable feeling, nothing. There is just a pure love for each other. Jungkook sat beside Taehyung. Taehyung leaned on him. He, with closed eyes, both sat in silent, hearing their heartbeats. Finally, Jungkook asked, "Are you nervous, baby?" Keep his hand on Taehyung's shoulder, and finally, Taehyung more close. Taehyung turned and pecked Jungkook's lips and said, "Now, not now. After talking with mom, I'm fine now. That's age, girl. I want to say that there is no escape from you, from me. After this engagement," Jungkook said sternly, "I want to be caged in your heart forever." Taehyung said softly to Jungkook. Jungkook's heart escaped from Taehyung's statement. He cupped Taehyung's face in his palm and said, "At this moment, I really want to kiss that lips which spoke such beautiful words, but I don't want people to see your swollen lips." Then Jungkook just picked Taehyung's lips at engagement. The hotel hall is filled with guests. All the guests are waiting for the couple. No one knows about the person with whom CEO Jian Jungkook is going to be engaged. Some of the businessmen who wanted to settle their daughter with Jungkook felt disappointment when they got invitation from Jeon family. Some of the young businesswomen who wanted to get Jungkook, they came to the engagement just to see who the girl who won Jungkook's heart. All of them heard news about Jungkook's boyfriend, but they still don't believe that because they thought news is fake. Mr. Kim and Mrs. Kim, Mr. Jan and Mrs. Jan with their little girl Hani are on the stage while waiting for their sons. That's when they heard announcement of Hobie, who is the host of the function. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our couple who is going to be engaged today," Hobie said, and the stage is completely black. Now the dim light stopped at the center of the stage where two boys came holding each other's hand. That's when all the lights switch on and all the guests gasped. Some of their mouth hang open. Some of them can't take their eyes from those beautiful boys. Both the boys are looking ethereal, like they just dropped from heaven. People started to murmur. That's when Huey spoke again. "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your place. Today, I am fortunate to announce this. The two heir of the G and K company and the son of Mr. and Mrs. Yan, son of Mr. and Mrs. Kim, are going to engage today. So, everyone, it's time to ring ceremony of Mr. Kim Taehyung and Mr. Jeon Jungkook." When Hobie announced this, most of the people can't believe that what they are hearing. They are stunned by the beauty of Taehyung. They never thought Kim hair will be like this. It's not their fault because Kim never mentioned about him. They only said they have a son. Both Mrs. Jian and Mrs. Kim gave ring to both boys in exchange their rings. When they both looked at their rings, now they know they are couple rings. Both of them looked at their mothers, who avoided their eyes. Both Jungkook and Taehyung sighed, and Jungkook hugged his baby and said, "Congratulations, Mr. Jeon Taehyung." Jungkook whispered in his ear. Taehyung got goosebumps after hearing the new surname of his. He cleared his throat and slowly said, "Congratulations, Hyung." That's when they heard Mrs. Kim sound, "Babies, you can hug after this function so much you want. Now photo session." Both the boys started and parted and smiled at each other while holding hands. They started to give poses for pics. After some time, guests started to come on the stage and congratulate them. After 2 hours, both the boys are tired. Their parents went to attend the guest. They are searching for their friends. That's when Jimin and Yoongi came. "We bring red wine for you guys." Jungkook glared at them and said, "Give us juice, not wine, Jimina. Taehyung understood Jungkook is not drinking wine because of him, so he looked at Jimin and said, "Bring one orange juice." Jimin nodded to him, and Taehyung took one glass of wine from Yoongi's hand. Jungkook looked at him and said, "Baby, you can't. Young, it's not for you. I will take orange juice. We love each other, and that doesn't mean you have to sacrifice for our likes." Taehyung said and gave wine to Jungkook. Jungkook smiled at him and said, "I love to sacrifice for you." How was this chapter? Don't forget to tell me in the comment section. I'm so sorry for the noise because there is some work is happening in my house, so I'm so sorry, but be happy and healthy. Bye.